Hi, I'm Sandy Ray, founder of Sandra E. Ray CPA, where we alleviate financial headaches so that you can create a bigger impact. Today, I want to talk to you about the different types of non-for-profit accounting. Now, I've identified 5 levels of accounting for nonprofit organizations that I think are important for every organization. Each requires its own skill levels and expertise. And when I say expertise, I mean expertise in nonprofit accounting. CPAs in other industries are wonderful in their industries, and I would never attempt to do what they do. There are some very critical things that happen in nonprofit accounting that are different than for-profit accounting. They're important to your organization and making sure that you have your reporting done accurately. And while a CPA is not required for all of these levels, we do recommend that you have access to one, whether that be a mentor, somebody on your board, or someone on your team. So let's get started. First, I want to talk about cloud-based bookkeeping. Now, I say cloud-based because I really believe that's where everybody needs to be. It gives us the opportunity to share our information with all those people who need it when they need it. Working with volunteers, not everyone wants access to our accounting system from 9 to 5 every day, Monday through Friday. So we've got evenings and weekends. They can do the things that they need to do when it's available. In addition, these applications give us different levels of access and security. Maybe a board member only has read-only access or report-only access, while the bookkeeper doesn't have access to maybe the checking account or the payroll module. We can pick and choose who has access to what. Now, cloud-based bookkeeping system is where the bulk of the work gets done. All of our deposits are posted there, our checks, our credit card transactions, our payroll, everything goes in here, and this is the database where all of our information is coming out so that we can make decisions for our organizations. We need a very detailed-oriented person who is in charge of recording these daily transactions. Now, a CPA is not required for this, but I do recommend that you have somebody who's very detail-oriented and understands the software and how all the different integrations work, because they all have integrations with our banks or our credit card processing system for our donations. We want to be very careful that we're not duplicating transactions. It's very easy to do when we start looking at these integrations. The second level of accounting I want to talk about is our monthly financial reporting. Now, I say monthly, but it could be weekly, it could be daily, depending on what the information is that you're needing. But this is where we do our monthly accruals, where we reconcile our bank statements, and we look at accruals such as, do we have a payroll liability? Have we recognized our membership revenue in the right period? Is it split between this year and next year? Do we have a deposit that we've paid for an event in a future period where we don't really want to recognize that expense until that event occurs? Those are the kinds of things that we're going to be dealing with in this level of accounting. The other obvious thing that we're going to be doing is reports. We're going to be pulling information out, looking at them. Are they reasonable? We're going to be comparing our budget to our actual. We're going to be looking at our revenue and our expenditures and our assets and our liabilities versus our benchmarking and our key performance indicators. So this is where all of that information comes out. I recommend that you have an accountant with nonprofit experience, and that person preferably is a CPA, so that they understand what all of these accounting rules and accruals and when to accrue and when not to accrue is actually happening. The third level of accounting I want to talk about is our budget and forecasting. Now, for budget and forecasting, I would say you need to do this at least annually. Depending on your organization, you may need to be doing it more often if you're growing and things are changing quickly. There are 2 types of budgeting. There's centralized and decentralized. Centralized is basically top-down, where the management team decides what the budget is going to be, and then they share that information with the people who are doing the purchasing and those kinds of things that need it, so they know how much they can spend every year. The decentralized method starts with the people who are actually doing the spending and saying, hey, we're going to need this much this year, or we can raise this much, or we've anticipated these grants are coming in. And then all of that information gets merged, reported up to the management team who merges it all together, refines it, and then takes it to the board for approval. Now, the decentralized method, depending on your size, is really more complicated, but I think it gives you a better budget than the centralized method because you're talking to the people who are right there dealing with the transactions on a day-to-day basis. Now, whoever's doing the budget, they need access to the strategic plan and the contracts. So they need to be able to understand what the plan is, have maybe ideally been involved in it, and understand what these contracts and agreements are saying, what is our obligations. I also recommend a 5-year rolling budget. And even though you may have heard me say this before, you're still gasping. I think if you try it, you're going to love it. The first year, it's really hard to do all 5 years, but how are you going to get to where you want to be in 5 years if you don't know what it's going to take financially for you to get there? Do you need to increase your dues incrementally? Do you need to increase your program revenue? Do we need to be looking for a grant for a specific new program? These are the kinds of things that a 5-year rolling budget is going to lay out for you and formalize so that everybody's on the same page and they're all working towards the same goal. And while you may be doing it informally, you'll be so amazed about having it in front of you helps you accomplish that goal. And then once the year is over, everything rolls forward. We refine all of our years with new information, and each year gets tighter and tighter until we get to the current year, the current budget that we're working on. And in 5 years, you'll be amazed where you are compared to where you thought you were going to be. Now, this person who does this, or team that does this, does not necessarily have to be a CPA, but they need to have a lot of knowledge about your organization, and they need to be able to understand those contracts and those grant agreements. The fourth level of accounting I want to talk to you about is audit preparation and compliance filings. Now, for audit preparation, I highly recommend that we have somebody who's a CPA on our team. This is the person who's going to help us get all of our schedules and all of our documentation ready. And they understand what the CPAs, who are the independent financial auditors, are required to do in order to write that report that says we attest that these financial statements fairly represent the organization and that there are no material misstatements. That level of understanding and expertise is the same. We can say that while we have this audit, the person who's doing the preparation makes it much easier for the financial auditors, the independent people, to come in, to go through their checklist, to do their testing, and get through everything and come to the conclusion that we need them to come to for our audit report to give to our grantors. That makes the audit less costly and in the long run keeps us moving in the right direction. Now, the other part of this level is obviously the compliance filings. We're talking about our 990s and our state-related filings. But there's other compliance filings that we have, like our grant reports, our state filings. Maybe we have payroll taxes or sales taxes. Do you have charitable gaming? Do you do lobbying? Do you have lobbying reports? Obviously, we have our charitable solicitation in our annual filings, or however often your state requires, filings with our Secretary of State and or the Attorney General. So all of this needs to be done on a regular basis, usually annually, and we recommend that you have a CPA on staff to do that, or access to one. The fifth and final level of accounting that I want to talk about today is a CFO level guidance and advice. Now, this may be a mentor, it may be a board member, it may be a staff member, This person really needs to have multiple years of varied experience. A CPA is really preferred. This is the person who's going to help you keep on top of trending issues, to keep on top of new regulations, to help you interpret what's coming from the regulatory bodies, or looking at some different ways of doing things that you haven't thought of before. So this is definitely somebody we probably need to be a CPA. This is somebody who's very important to our team to make sure that we are keeping on top of everything and we're ahead of the obstacles and maybe even able to turn those into opportunities. No matter the size of your organization, you need to address all of these levels of accounting in your organization. You may be small and you may only have one person who's doing it all, or you may have a great team where you're able to spread that accounting responsibilities over various people on your team, and everything's getting done and working well. But I want you to think about what you need. I need you to be creative. Consider your volunteers, your team members, or even outsourcing these responsibilities. Spread the work around to the personnel that best fit and have the most experience. I want to thank you for joining us today, and remember that creating a bigger impact starts with stopping the nonsense. So if you're dealing with nonsense in your nonprofit organization, we'd love to help you cut through the noise.